A while back, I stumbled upon a B18 at the junkyard, so I thought it'd be a cool thing to swap it into my EJ1 Civic. But I needed all the accessories and the transmission to go with it, so I picked up an Integra from an auction. Now I have two B18s and everything I need to do the swap. So in this video, I finally get the engine and the transmission out of the Integra. On the first day I got to work on the Integra, I got off work and I had a little bit of daylight left. So I was like, let me see if I can drain some fluids and remove some accessories. This will give me a head start in taking the engine out. So the first thing I did was drain the coolant and take the radiator out. And then I took the intake off, and then that hose. And then I realized that this car wasn't as neglected as it first appeared. This engine has been worked on because a lot of this stuff is coming off very easily. I will not be running power steering. Cars this light, it just clogs up the engine bay. So I got to work disconnecting the throttle cable and setting it aside. I removed the remaining coolant hoses. And I removed the power steering pump. On that day I did not have much time, but that little bit of work would give me a head start when I came back and was finally ready to pull the engine. So I packed up, headed home, and waited for a day where my schedule and the weather would allow me to pull the engine. And about 3 weeks later, that day happened. I'm going to be very ambitious today. I'm going to try and get the engine and transmission out of the auction Integra and get it back to the house. It would be nice to get it mounted on an engine stand, but if I get it back to the house, I'll consider it a win. So I got the truck loaded up with hopefully all the tools I'll need. I got some jack stands and some pavers. So yeah, let's see how it goes. So the Integra is at a secret location, and since we placed it here, they have put a shipping container beside it. So I'm going to pull it with my truck out to the open so I have more space to work. So I got the car on jack stands and it was time to get to work. All right, I'm starting underneath with the headers. Come on, buddy. So I removed the bolts that connect the headers to the cat, but that is probably just a pipe. This is broken, so I do not have to disconnect those, but I will disconnect the O2 sensor, which connects there, and then I can go back up top and disconnect it from the head. For the O2 sensor, I had to remove this part of the connector that mounts to that bracket there, and then I was able to remove the plug from the harness. I don't know how much it matters, but I remove them in the opposite order that you tighten them. That one is pretty rusted. On two of these, the stud came out. That's okay. So now the header should be free. And it is a one-piece header. That's kind of cool. So now I'm going to disconnect the shift linkages from the transmission, and in here is a little pin. I'm not going to tell you what a lot of people call it, but it's a pin that is a pain to get out. Yeah, so there's a sleeve here that you can just slide off like that. And then there's this pin here that needs to be banged out. Some people call it a bad word. I'll just call it the pin. I think this is the right size. Yeah, I've done this a couple times. I thought I grabbed a hammer. Where is it? Let me go find it. So there's a better look at it. And this little sleeve was around it, covering up. So you pull this sleeve off, as you can see there, and then you bang out that little dowel, and then that will allow you to decouple this from this. Don't want to lose that. Now that's free. Yo, these mounts are trash. Look at that. All right, more leverage. All right, so now I think next I will do the axles. And to get to the axle nut, the wheel has to come off. And depending on the vehicle, this trick will work if you didn't loosen your lug nuts before you jack it up. Now this bad boy. So when I forget to remove the axle nut while it's on the ground, I'll put an Allen wrench in the vent of the rotor, if I'm lucky enough to be working on a car that has that, and then that'll allow me to lock this in order to get the nut off. So let's see if it works. My 32 millimeter big boy socket. Need more leverage. Got it moving. I'm gonna play the same game on the other side. This one has significantly more rust on it than the other side. So it's giving me a little bit of trouble. So we'll see what we can do about that. See my breaker bar flexing. All right, so I got that one out. I'm gonna have to remove the lower ball joint to free up this section of the suspension to get the axle out. I swear I have done it before without taking this off, but maybe that was a dream. All right, so I went and got yet another ball joint separator because I was closer to a store than I am to home. This is not the way to use this one, but I'm gonna keep going. I'll take it. Damn sure didn't want to go back to the store. There we go. All right, so now this axle is out and the other one is free. I just got to make sure that it clears when I pull the engine. So let's go up top. Now I did use the ball joint separator properly on the other side, but both ways worked. All right, so now both axles are free and So are the shift linkages. So I think harness, then mounts, then lift it out. I actually had some abandoned hoses and the clutch slave cylinder to deal with next. I'll just disconnect it all together. Wait until I bring some flare nuts later. And then there was a grounding cable that went from the transmission to the chassis that I disconnected. What else is on this side? All right, we got the connections to the starter. Signal, that is, I don't know, 12 or 13 maybe. We have other connections down here. Down there is the speedometer signal, I believe, and various other wires back here. So I'm just going to trace everything that goes to the transmission, the block, or the head, and remove it. We have a hose that goes to the heater core, and it is right here. So I'm gonna see if I can get that off. Oh, that is deteriorating. Well, I got it off with a little bit of fighting. What else is connected? So this harness is connected to something else under here, and that is, I don't know, should I connect it up here? So I think I have everything on this side of the engine disconnected. I disconnected these wires on the harness that is connected to the engine on the engine. But I'm pretty sure I have everything separated. So I'm gonna move to the other side. So over here I have this, and I actually don't know what it does. I think this is the fuel pressure regulator, but I don't know why it goes over here. But anyway, so over here I have this to disconnect. I think I already disconnected everything for the alternator because that is on the other harness, if I'm thinking straight. So I'll disconnect this hose and this that goes to the power steering. I'll disconnect it because that is just a bracket. It's not really connected to the engine per se. It's just a bracket to route the lines. And I think that is it, because I think I got everything back here disconnected. But I'm going to disconnect all that, then start loosening the bolts and lift the engine out. So I believe this engine is held on with 4 mount points. There's a mount here, a mount on the transmission there, another mount on the transmission there, and that mount there that is on the rear of the transmission and engine. So I'm going to remove all the mounts except for the 2 side ones, and then start lifting the engine, then remove the other mounts and take it out. And I missed a mount point. There is also a mount point there that is just in front of where the accessory pulleys are. So all was going well until I tried to remove that mount there. The screws that are holding this up were very difficult to get out. One came out, but the other one stripped and just spun in place. So I took off the whole bracket, which is right here. So now I'll be able to wrap a strap around this side like I did this one and lift it out. I will not show the lift. So I got the engine pulled and loaded. The only snag I hit was when I was pulling it. Some of those bolts caught the front end of the car, so I had to lower it, shift and raise again, but it came out smoothly and I did disconnect everything. So now I'm gonna move on to the shift linkages and the axles, and I think I'm gonna call it a day. Maybe I'll pull the rear disc swap, but yeah, maybe after the axles and shift linkages, I'll just call it a day. So I'm just gonna move these hangers off the exhaust and drop it, and then get to the shift linkages that are beneath it, or above it rather. Well, think if I just remove those 2 bolts, I can take the whole thing. Ugh. Get out from under this exhaust. And I will need the axles, so I'm going to go ahead and take them. Now, if this is your car and you plan on using this stuff, do not treat the brake lines like this. And of course, I will need the computer, but that makes me nervous. Now I'm gonna pull it and see, but it looks like it got exposed to water at some point. But anyway, I'm gonna pull it and then I'm gonna head home. Maybe. I don't know. There were signs that this car still ran, but I would be very surprised if it didn't have electrical gremlins. I mean, look at that. But I'm gonna take it, open it up, and see what it looks like on the inside, because we might get lucky, but I'm not thinking that will be the case.
Today I wanted to get the engine out of the car, and I was able to do that. If you want to follow along as I continue the swap, hit subscribe. If you want to see the other work I've done on the Civic, look at the playlist.
Thanks for watching. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Take care.